Dietary, and also Dr. Amsu for being with us. So can I ask everyone to please make sure you take some notes. I don't know if you want this to just be a nice flowing conversation or if you have a presentation, but either way, I'm ready, the family's ready for us to learn and grow together, and I thank you in advance.
All right, so we want to do we want to have that flow because the conversation is the best form of education. So yeah, you know,
yeah, so feel free to ask us questions.
Feel free. So there was a couple of things that you spoke about, and over here in the United States, African American women are 9.7 times more likely to have fibroids than white women, right? Hysterectomies, fibroids are 50% of the hysterectomies in this country, so it's a bit higher, and probably that's due to there being less Black women in the UK as a percentage of the total population. So we know with female reproductive issues such as fibroids, 90% of African American women will have fibroids, not may have fibroids, will have fibroids. So it is a pandemic. It's not.
It's a question. Why is that?
And all right, we're gonna get into why that is. We'll get into all of that.
We'll get into it.
Yeah, I saw Earl say we're there. So
yes,
yeah, we're gonna get into it. We're gonna cover all of that as we move along. But there are many factors. There are root causes and then there are cofactors, right? So this is what's most important. We are not the same, right? Whenever I give any kind of lecture or keynote speaking at any event, the number one thing as an endocrinologist, right? We are not the same as white people. We are different. The color of our skin, I was gonna the color of our kin, right? The color of our skin, right, isn't just a thing, just a simple thing. There are many factors, genetics, metabolic differences, and it's those metabolic differences that mean that we cannot ingest the same substances as white people and get the same benefits or the same negatives, right? So substances that may be conducive to the white biology more often than not is detrimental to the Black biology. So we're living in an age of plastics, of detergents, you know, synthetic detergents, right? Which Chi-Chi is going to go into in a second, and foods that are genetically modified, and minerals in the soil that have been disrupted, that have been depleted. So it affects the quality of the food. As Black people, we require the best quality food. When we don't get that best quality food, it has an impact on our cells, on our cellular integrity. And the outcome is disease, dysfunction. So, you know, there are within our bodies on this planet, we have, and I don't mean to be a bigot, but I'm gonna be a bigot, right? We have the natural cells in our body are dark colored. They are dark, red to brown to black. We have leukocytes in our body. Leukocytes are part of our immune system, right? And they have to be highly regulated. When they are not highly regulated, we suffer with either an autoimmune disease or autoimmune diseases or inflammatory chronic inflammatory diseases, which, you know, we were just discussing that a bit earlier on, about chronic inflammatory diseases being actually, you know, autoimmune diseases. So same within our bodies, outside. So on the micro, when the whites get out of hand, it causes problems. On the macro, when the whites get out of hand, war, destruction, colonialism, imperialism, right? The destruction of Mother Earth. Mother Earth is a being, is a living entity, and through excessive white entities on the planet being in control, it has meant the destruction of Mother Earth, where even weather patterns are out of whack right now. So imbalance occurs. So that's just something for, and I ain't afraid to say that. I will, you know, I'll preach that from the mountaintops, that, you know, we are unapologetic in what we talk about. And I say we because I'm bringing her in.
He's taking me down with him. No. But it's so true. I mean, I know you're about to ask a question, but, you know, just to simplify what he's saying is that, you know, with what's considered advancements in science and advancements in cultural practices, it's destroying the planet. And so on a macro level, a planetary level, we're seeing that, you know, the advancements with the introduction of synthetic chemicals and, you know, plastics and all of these, you know, things that didn't exist in nature that have been synthesized by scientists with, you know, good intentions, because, you know, they're trying to advance the civilization, but not considering the fact that there are side effects to all of these things. And so we're bombarded with all of these problems with our weather and pollution and species dying off and things like that on a macro level, right? But on a, you know, individual human body level, is going on inside our own environment. Our internal environment being destroyed by these chemicals and plastics, and the food that we're eating, it's causing a destruction in our bodies as well. And so is it an advancement really? Did we need to go there with these advancements? What was wrong with what we were doing, living off the land and living according to nature? What drove all of this to occur? It has a lot to do with profits and industry and accumulating what's considered today wealth. Is it really wealth? Your first wealth is your health, and that's being destroyed by these advancements for those small number of people, these oligarchs that feel like these advancements are going to make them happier having more money. At the end of the day, we're just seeing a breakdown of our planet and its balance and our bodies. And so you have all of these things that we're going to talk about today: fibroids, endometriosis, and everything else.
No, absolutely. I mean, before we actually get into it deep, I just think it's important for everyone to actually know a little bit more about yourselves, because obviously we've seen Dr. Amsu and Brother Mark as well, who have been on the platform, but it'd be wonderful for everyone to know more about yourself, Coach Chi-Chi, just so that we can understand your background. Obviously you're a Brit, you're a fellow Brit.
I'm a Brit. Emigrated.
Yes, emigrated out there to the US. And so what was your journey, and what led you to then specialize and become a health practitioner, a wellness advocate?
Well, I will say from quite a young age, I became aware of, you know, vegetarianism, and, you know, I have an older sister, she's 10 years older than me. And so when I was in secondary school, she went to university. And I think after the first semester, she came back home and she became a vegetarian. I'm like, oh, what's that? You know, stop eating meat. And I learned about pork and how toxic it is and all that kind of stuff. And just started to realize that there was another way to do things at quite a young age, you know, and so there's alternative ways to eat. My mum wasn't happy about that. It was like, what's wrong with the food I cook, you know? But we're raised to, you know, eat a certain way and use certain products. And it's just, you know, the way that we do things, and it's done unconsciously, right? We go to the store and buy certain things and we don't think, we don't question what we're buying, because that's what I was raised on, you know, and I'll go into more about that, you know, how it's kind of conditioned us and results into a lot of the conditions that we're suffering now. But, you know, from there, I wanted to study biology. So I went to university. I was actually thinking about medical school, and I saw a lot of very disillusioned physicians in my family and people that we knew, you know, Nigerians, there's a lot of Nigerian doctors out there. So it's not surprising I have a couple of doctors in my family that are Nigerian, you know.
All of them.
Either a doctor or a lawyer, you know. And so, but I decided not to do that because I just didn't want to be another person prescribing medications, basically. And so I was kind of a little bit anti that. And so through college, what I was learning in, they call it college here, in university, what I was learning about the human body and everything else, disease and so forth, I put myself on a wellness journey and changed what I was eating and so on. And then was thinking about my career, you know, what did I want to do in the future? I wanted to make a lot of money doing something. I had to figure out what that was. And I decided against medical school, like I said, and saw my sister-in-law, who used to be a nurse, leave the medical profession. She didn't like being a bedside nurse and went into a career that gave her a really nice salary and a company car. And I thought, oh, that's nice. I think I'll do that. And it happened to be the pharmaceutical industry, right? The enemy.
I saw the look.
Yeah. So I was on the wrong side, right? But, you know, I mean, as a young person, I wasn't really thinking of that. I didn't want to become a nurse. Didn't want to be, you know, going to the medical profession because I didn't want to prescribe the meds. So somehow I had it in my mind that promoting them to doctors was better. So go figure. All right. So forgive me. You know, this is my penance that I'm paying now from all those years later. But
she was the connect. She was the plug.
Just trying to help, you know, just trying to help, you know. But you know, I learned a lot in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was kind of like, let's take it as I was an insider. Let's see it that way. I was an insider, you know. And so the first disease area that I learned about was cardiovascular disease. And I worked in every therapy area, you know, diabetes, hypertension, central nervous system, and then ended up in oncology, you know, and I'd studied oncology undergrad. And I thought it was fascinating. There's this oncogene that apparently predisposes people to cancer. And so I worked for a big pharmaceutical company, one of the top 5 companies in their oncology division. And so that's where I learned a lot about women's reproductive health. So I was promoting a treatment for endometriosis and fibroids and infertility and dysfunctional uterine bleeding, as they call it, also prostate cancer. And then actually was lucky enough to get a transfer with that company to the US to be on their lung cancer therapy team. And what I learned all along, even, you know, just my kind of, you know, entrance into that industry, was that I didn't want to be on any of the medications that I was promoting. Didn't want to have any of those side effects, right? Didn't want any of those chemicals in my body. And, you know, I was just one of those holistic people, kind of out like a fish out of water in the pharmaceutical industry. But like I said, I learned a lot. And one of the main things I learned was that cancer, for example, only 11% of cancers are inherited, meaning that you have a first-degree relative. So if you have breast cancer, for example, you having a parent or an aunt or a sister or a first-degree relative with that disease only increases your risk by 11%. You have an 11% chance of having breast cancer in that situation. So the question was, well, then what about the other 89%? And so I'd ask my customers, these doctors, these oncologists, you know, so, you know, why are we seeing such a prevalence of breast cancer in people that have no risk factors, no family members, they're not old, they're not postmenopausal, you know, the risk factors are age, right? Family history, certain other things, right? Where is it coming from? And it was always, oh, we don't know. We just treat it. And I kind of felt defeated. You can see that, you know, that they were just despondent, like they didn't have an answer. And then, you know, a few years later, it'll be, okay, it's something in the environment. We figured it out. It's something in the environment. And then the question is, okay, I want to know what in the environment is causing it and triggering it in 89% of cases, because if we can find out what it is, let's remove it, right? And reduce the risk entirely. Because it's horrible to see, you know, a 26-year-old come in with stage 4 breast cancer. I mean, that's devastating, you know, and it's not in their family history. So there's something they were exposed to that caused it, you know, and so that's where my passion for this came about. And so I like to teach people about indoor air pollution. Most people think of air pollution as something that's outside, right? Car exhaust fumes, factory emissions, you know, oil spills and chemicals outside. The reality is that the air in your home is 3 times to 70 times more polluted than the air outside.
Wow.
And
wash on the
that.
socks.
Say again?
Wash on the socks.
Wow.
Some detergent.
That-
Let him translate into English for you.
wash your socks.
Wash your socks.
Yeah, wash your socks.
Wash your socks.
Wash your undies.
In something that doesn't pollute the air. So, you know, so for example, I mean, this to me is 3 to 70 stuff.
times.
Yeah, this is practical stuff that everyone can apply in their life, because, you know, to avoid all of these issues that we're having, we have to accept that we're not just victims, that we are more than conquerors, right? That we can take the bull by the horns and tame it and subdue it with daily practices and making changes in our everyday. All right. And so we have to think about what can we do, and to understand what we can do, we need to understand where is it coming from, right? Where's the indoor air pollution coming from? And the sad thing is, it's stuff that we bring into our homes every day, things that we bring past the threshold of our homes. We're bringing the enemy inside. And so we need to be educated on what that enemy is. And so we're talking about synthetic chemicals, and it's something that is, you know, a practical solution. Switch your products, change what you're using, what you use on your hair, what you use on your skin, what you use to brush your teeth. Did you know that your toothpaste has carcinogenic ingredients in it, hormone disruptive ingredients in it, immunosuppressant, you know? And so things that we have been, like I said at the beginning, conditioned to use without even thinking twice about, are often the culprits of what we're suffering from. I'll give you an example, a personal example. My mum, who is, God bless her, 91, she's going to be 92 in May. And she had me when because I'm 50, so she had me when she was older. She had me when she was 41 years old. And I remember as a little girl watching her dye her hair to hide the grays. So I remember her with the gloves on, you know, getting ready, and then pasting it on her hair and scalp. And already the image of that is, hold on a second, if you have to protect your hand with gloves, what are you doing putting it on your scalp and on your hair follicles? And fast forward to 2004, she was diagnosed with stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was on chemotherapy and all of that. And at the time, I was working here in the States in oncology for this pharmaceutical company. And so all of my customers, all of the people that I spoke to every day were doctors that treated people like her. So you can imagine I'm panicking and frantic and asking every one of them, why my mum? How did this happen? What happened? What can we do? Frantic and panicking that my mum has stage 4 cancer. And they're like, we don't know. It's unknown. You know, the same answer, or something in the environment. But, you know, since you have so many questions, Chi-Chi, here's our website. Go and read some articles that, you know, there might be some answers to your questions in there, you know, good luck kind of thing, right? So I went and read and discovered that there was a link between dark hair dyes and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I've met other people who've had family members. There's a leukemia lymphoma society out here. I don't know if they have one in England, they might do. And so I've met people in that community that have said, yeah, dark hair dyes. Yeah, we learned the same thing.
Same with dark hair dyes and tattoos, right?
Yeah.
Carbon black ink, the most carcinogenic of all tattoo inks. Yeah. So black people, when we tattoo and we're darker skin, we have to use black. Right. So color. There's even a show, I don't know if you get in the UK, called Black Ink, right? It's becoming more and more popular. Black people, the younger we are, the more we're tattooing. So that's just something else to consider, where we're pumping the carcinogens into into our bodies.
into our bodies,
into the bodies, not on the surface where it might seep in, which it does seep in through the pores, but we're putting it into our skin, so it gets into the bloodstream.
And that's just one example. I mean, that's just dark hair dyes,
right?
You know, the hundreds of products that we use every day. Like I said, you know, your toothpaste, your mouthwash, your underarm deodorant, you know,
bleach,
the laundry detergent. Yeah, I mean, you know, some of these items that we're talking about, you can go to the EPA's website, or you can, you know, take a brand of anything, you know, a cleaner in England like Ajax, or, you know, bleach. Most people,
furniture
aerosol,
polishers,
anything aerosol, right? Aerosol propellants are carcinogenic, you know, and some of them will tell you, but most of us don't have the time or don't take the time to read labels. But listen, we've read the labels already. Take our word for it. Don't use them. Most people, when they walk into the supermarket, what they see on the shelves should be banned, quite frankly. But this consumer goods industry is not regulated. All right. And so it means that a manufacturer, and we'll get to who they are a little bit later, they are free to put any ingredients they want to into products, as long as they put a warning label on it. And the warning labels are very limited in how much information they provide us, and they're in teeny tiny print they can barely read. But as long as they have a warning label on it, then they can put anything they want to in the bottle, in the packaging, with impunity. And so it's at the expense of our health as consumers. And so it's in our best interest to inform and educate ourselves, and an educated consumer makes better decisions. And most of us would walk in the grocery store, turn around 180 and walk back out again, because that's how prevalent these toxic products are that are leading to these problems. And so the synthetic chemicals are used in everyday products because they are cheap. Bottom line, cheap synthetics that were produced in the Second World War. And, you know, we have a war, unfortunately, going on between Russia and Ukraine right now. And, you know, we heard Vladimir Putin is rumored to be producing chemical weapons against you, you know. So these chemicals were used as weaponry and were then just stored up when the war was over. Thousands of barrels of these chemicals.
Bleach was a weapon.
It's a pest, exactly.
Right.
And along comes your big 8 manufacturers. You can tell me, you know, the ones that you know about, right? There's 8 big manufacturers in the world that have monopolized the consumer goods industry. If they don't make and manufacture the product, then they own the company that does, and change their formulations to use these synthetics to cheapen them. And what they do is they prioritize things like packaging and marketing and advertising. That's more important to them because they want your loyalties to their brand. They put the commercial on TV. There might in England be more commercials for a certain brand of laundry detergent than there are others, right? So that company's putting a lot more money than the other companies. You know, it's competitive marketing. And they prioritize that so that the actual ingredient in the product is cheapened with these synthetic chemicals. They're watered down, and they may work, they may get your clothes clean or apparently clean, but at the expense of our health, these synthetic chemicals. And so we need to seek alternatives, you know, because these chemicals are things that you've heard of before. They are endocrine disrupting chemicals, right? EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals, is another word for hormone disruptor. And yes, because we know that fibroids and endometriosis and things like that are all strongly promoted by estrogen. So to remove estrogen from the body regresses these conditions. And, you know, I worked for a company that competed with the company that makes Lupron. You might have heard of Lupron before. Okay, so this is an injection that is used to downregulate estrogen, right? It's a chemical that acts on the brain chemical. What is it called? I've forgotten.
So you got, it goes through gonadotropin releasing hormone, which affects luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, and those two are, you know, take women through their cycles. They basically initiate estrogen and progesterone and testosterone release.
So this particular treatment was a luteinizing hormone releasing hormone inhibitor to stop estrogen, basically, because estrogen feeds fibroids and endometriosis and so forth, right? And so estrogen is the culprit, right? But when you're exposing yourself through indoor air pollution to these synthetic chemicals, they are disrupting your hormonal system and allowing these conditions to proliferate and and continue. So unfortunately, for example, someone may have a fibroid removed surgically, and it's very traumatic and invasive. There's a recovery, but the bad news is the fibroid can come back, right? Isn't that the horrifying reality? And they often do. And so let's get to the root cause, because the OBGYNs that I used to call on, they were my customers, these OBGYNs that did these surgeries. And, one of them I remember was actually from Ghana. She was Ghanaian. She was Black woman from Ghana, was an OBGYN in North London. And I would see the defeated expression on her face, like, we just don't know what to do. They keep growing back. We're just tired of having to take out we just remove the womb, just take the womb out. That seems to be the only solution. When what Dr. Amsu does and what we are teaching people is that the surgery isn't even necessary. We need to remove the toxins, detoxify the body, detoxify your environment, your home, get rid of these chemicals, and you won't have the fibroids come back. They may not even occur in the beginning.
So before we move into that, it would be great for those who are yet to meet Dr. Amsu to learn about your story, sir, because in actual fact, your story has led you to become this world-leading expert in the area of fibroids and endometriosis, as well as a best-selling author. So if you can share with everyone your background, that would be great as well, please.
All right. So I always tell this story because it's the most simplest way to say it. When I was a teenager, it was summer holidays, and my mum had a hysterectomy, and she had to convalesce for a couple of months, at least 6 weeks. And as you know, in the UK, our summer holiday ain't as long as in the States. Over here, it's like 3 months or some madness, right?
They fall asleep because they're so long.
Literally from May till August is over here. We had July until the end of August. So we had like the middle of July till the end of August, 6 weeks. My mom had a hysterectomy, and I was a teenager. I was like 13 or 14, one of the two, right? I've had therapy to forget this whole summer fiasco, right? Of course I do, because I had to stay inside to look after my mum for the whole holiday, while she was convalescing. So I was old enough to know what I was doing on my errands, and I was young enough that don't answer back, right? So my whole summer was toast. I maybe had a couple hours. I couldn't go to like the summer project and whatnot. I was stuck indoors. So
made an impression on you.
It made an impression on me, like, all right, what's a hysterectomy? Why do you have this hysterectomy? I had reproductive problems, and my mom's Jamaican, so she didn't say it as politely as I'm saying it, but she had fibroids. I come to find out she had fibroids. So I'm like, well, what are fibroids? And how did it get there? How did they get there? And that, which sparked my interest. Like, I wanted to know what was the mechanisms behind this condition that basically jacked up my whole summer, right? So it
affects the whole family, doesn't it?
It sparked my interest about, all right, in order to know about this condition and the mechanisms of it, what is that particular study, right? So from earlier on, I knew the word endocrinology, or the endocrine system, hormones. So it sparked my interest. Now, when I left school originally, I actually went into, as a Black man or Black male growing up, there were certain ways or career paths that were promoted to us as Black men. It was being a mechanic, right? So if you walked into any classroom, back in the 80s, where you want to be, we would have our default safety place where we don't want to seem too effeminate. So the safe place was mechanic. So you go around the room, everyone, mechanic, mechanic, right? So I was like, I don't need no mechanic, but I enjoyed physics. I enjoyed electronics. So I actually got into electronic and electrical engineering, because the career path for like to become a doctor, I grew up in Northwest London, and it was like, it was unheard of that black man in Northwest became doctors, right? That was something, again, Nigerians and Indians were the only people of color who, you know,
just kidding.
I didn't take biology as an option at the time because it wasn't manly enough. It wasn't hard enough. You see what I'm saying? So it was later on when I started studying going down biology and the medical field. So I got into endocrinology and metabolism, and that became my passion, like knowing how the human body works. So within all religious texts and what have you, it's always know thyself.
Yes.
And knowing thyself is to really know in depth thyself or myself. And that comes with the study of how does my body actually communicate? What are my voluntary systems? What are my involuntary? Because we learn, I was studying Islam and Sufism, and I learned that the involuntary system belonged to God, right? So there was processes that goes on in the body that we are not even aware that we are having, right? We have no control over it at all. And we learned that that's God. So I'm like, all right, what's the actual voice of God, or the metuneta, right? Meduneta, right? And this is our endocrine system. It's our immune system. It's our lymphatic system, our circulatory system, all these systems that we have that are controlled, they're on automation.
Yeah.
Right. And it's that automation that is God. Right. And, studying Egypt and that in my studies, I found out, all right, that's actually right. That was the Egyptians' principle of automation is this law of God being carried out. So the voluntary stuff that we do affects the involuntary response.
Yeah.
So you can actually say, I commit a sin, I get judged. And this goes on every second. There are trillions of processes that are in response to what we ingest. These are metabolic processes, and they affect, again, the endocrine system, our hormones, our enzymes, our peptides, our neurotransmitters. Everything about us is chemical, and these chemicals can be volatile, or they can be modulatory, meaning that they create homeostasis or balance. Right? So it's so intriguing, and I'm study doesn't end. It doesn't. When you get a degree or a master's, even a PhD, it means nothing, because we still know nothing. The more you know is the more you don't know.
Discover that you don't know.
Right. Yeah. So my field of study is endocrinology and metabolism. But I got disheartened with the whole medical industry, just like your family, where it's like you are so regulated. It's like there's an oligarchy, right? Oligarchy within all fields, and the white man controls that industry. It's dictated by white biology, right? 98% of pharmaceuticals are tested on white biology. Yeah. Right? Now, and there's a political, monetary reason for that, because they know that Black people metabolize differently to white people. So when they're testing, they know that a drug will never see market, because of the adverse effect it's going to have on black people, on the black biology. So they deliberately only test on 92% of tests are done on white, 98% are done on white people. Only 2% is done on people of color, of which black people are maybe 30% of that. So we're actually like less than 1% of drugs that are tested.
And this is drugs as well. Remember, these are synthesized
right.
synthetic chemicals, right? And at the end of the day, we don't want them anyway. You can test them on us if you want, but really they're synthetics, and we want to go back to nature, because nature is the answer for us. And that's what works for us 100% of the time, right?
But here's the indoctrination though, right? So my parents trusted the white man with everything, as so many of our parents, right? I think our generation were the first to start questioning, like, oh, well, go on. Nah, this don't seem right.
Yeah.
You know, and in the medical field, it is so, like, if you've seen like any movies or anything where you had this auditorium where you would have somebody coming up with something innovative, they had to prove it or give a thesis in front of all these, conservative, stuck in their ways scientists, right? Who would say poppycock, basically foolishness, not nagosa, right? And you had to make your case. Right. So me seeing that the medical industry is actually controlled. So by the time I got into medicine and all that, the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Fords and these oligarchs already infiltrated the medical industry because everything was natural. Medicines were from plants and barks and what have you. They infiltrated that in the early 20th century, right? Or the late 19th century to the early 20th century, and started funding medical schools and wouldn't give out funding unless they adhered to or conformed to this synthetic paradigm. Yeah. So that they could patent. It was all about intellectual property, patenting, isolating molecules and then reproducing those molecules in order to say, right, we own that. We were the first to isolate this. So we now own this molecule. Yeah. And that's what pharmaceuticals are. They are a collection of molecules. So I know, all right, all these side effects. What about the side effects? And it's not actually working. It's not curing. We're not here to cure. We're here to manage. Yeah.
Stick a Band-Aid on it.
Stick a Band-Aid on it.
A plaster.
And so it's like, no, that ain't right. But this is the way, right? This is the way. If you don't like it, you can F off out of it, right? So it's like, nah, there has to be a better way. So I got into Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine to like get into herbalism, because there were, in my studies, I came across a plethora of white papers where there's herbal treatment for whatever, herbal treatment, herbal remedy for, and there's, so many clinical double-blind studies which showed that these herbs, plant-based medicines, were actually curing diseases. And they didn't use the word cure, but they were like reversed. They used terms such as reversed.
The antidote.
Right, antidote, but they didn't say cure. So I was like, wait a minute. So all this pharmaceutical bull crap that's going on, there are actual natural remedies. So it got me into herbalism. So I became a formulating herbalist. So all my research that I do is, I started with female reproductive conditions and disorders, and I've branched into other areas, because it's all inflammation, it's all inflammatory diseases,
Mm.
you know. So here I am.
Though.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here you are, because it is important though with looking at the female reproductive conditions for those who may not necessarily know. And thank you both for sharing with us what you have. Can you explain to everyone what is endometriosis and what is fibroids?
Okay, so endometriosis is endometrial tissue that grows outside of the uterus, right? So every month when a woman's going through a cycle, there's a period where women ovulate, and the lining of the uterus, which is called the endometrium, thickens to accommodate a fertilized egg, where it will now become the housing for a developing, or for gestation, for pregnancy. In the event that the egg is not fertilized, this thickened lining, endometrium, is shed. That's where you get menses, or a period. Now, a period is only supposed to be spotting. It's supposed to last for a day, 2 days, 3 days at the most, 3 days at the most of spotting. It's supposed to be like a teaspoonful of blood.
Wow.
That's where it's supposed to be. Now, most women who are on this forum will be like, not me.
Yep.
Maybe a cup, maybe a couple of cups, right? Which, again, that's how much the lining of the uterus has thickened, which is abnormal, but it's now unnatural, but it's now normal because so many of you have this, hemorrhaging, but it's normal. With that hemorrhaging comes pain, right? So this endometrial tissue is supposed to be shed. Now, wherever this tissue is, and it's prompted by the luteinizing phase, where estrogen is increased, right? Which now it's supposed to be contained again in the uterus. What happens with endometriosis is that what we know as what we call implants, endometrial tissue, grows outside of the lining of the uterus. It grows outside. So it follows the cycle, but it grows outside. These implants cause an inflammatory response when they are outside of the uterus. This causes pain.
The contraction of the endometrial tissue.
Now, when it's outside of the lining of the uterus, it's shed. When there's no pregnancy, it follows the same cycle, but there's nowhere for it to go. So the vaginal channel allows the endometrium to be shed, which is your period. But where it's now trapped, because if it's outside of the uterus, there's no way for it to get out. So this causes scarring. Where the blood is trapped, it can cause cysts called endometriomas, right? Endometriomas, also known as chocolate cysts, which is a sac of inflammatory tissue with pus and other, fluids that build up, and including blood. And these are cysts that grow and cause pain. There are also adhesions. It causes scarring because of these white blood cells, these inflammatory cells that attack this tissue that's not supposed to be. So your body has these paranoid cells, proteins, that anything out of place, it's like, now we're going to go down there, we're going to deal with this case. That's your white blood cells. These are leukocytes, right?
It's an immune response.
Immune response, right? So the immune response is, this ain't supposed to be there. We're going to go down. And I gave an analogy to you earlier on, which is, all right, so at a wedding, you have ushers. An usher is basically an anti-inflammatory immunocell, where it's going to nicely kind of deal with the situation like, excuse me, sir, you ain't supposed to be here. Can you kindly leave, right? Then you have bouncers. You got a bouncer. It's like, mate, get out, you know, and we'll start a fight, start a brawl. Whatever's damaged is part of it's collateral damage. Yeah. It's gonna do damage. It's gonna rough somebody up, dash them about, and whatever's broken is broken. Those are your pro-inflammatory cells. They not only, they'll deal with whatever is a problem, or may not, but in the meantime, they cause a lot of damage while they're doing it, right? And it causes scarring, it causes adhesions, it causes lesions, raised tissue, right? And this causes pain. Now, in the peritoneum, right? This is where a lot of women who suffer with endometriosis have most of their debilitating pain, which is the lining of the cervix, right? Again, peritoneum. It can also affect, so adenomyosis is basically also endometriosis, but it's within the uterus, right? So it's localized, where it actually, not just the lining, but it's actually within the walls of the uterus where you will have these implants, and they also cause, inflammatory response, which is pain, right? Or we call it dolor, right? Causes this massive pain, but it also affects the cervix. It affects the vagina. It affects the rectum. It affects the cul-de-sac. It affects the colon. Or, and this is the thing with endometriosis. There are 4 stages of endometriosis, from mild to severe, right? So the severity also is the progression, which can affect your liver, your kidneys, other vital organs, your heart, your lungs, even your eyes and your brain, even though they're more rare, right? So a lot of women who suffer with migraines, it may be down to endometrial tissue that are sparked when, women who have migraines when they're coming onto their cycle.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, because I have migraine with aura. And so I was intrigued by what you just said, because when I had my surgery, my migraines actually reduced.
Right. So again, the culprit is estrogen. Yeah. The culprit are xenoestrogens. So anything that has an estrogenic effect on the body. So these xenoestrogens, they're not actually estrogen, but the molecular structure is very similar to the forms of estrogen that are in the body, right? So they exert an estrogenic effect. Now, fibroids. Fibroids are tumors that occur. They are leiomyomas, right? They occur within. What did you say?
The smooth muscle of
the smooth muscle of the uterus, right? And again, caused by estrogen, and it causes tumorous growth, right? They are benign tumorous growth, right? Now, endometriosis, on the other hand, when it's in the cervix, it can actually cause things like uterine cancer. It's not in itself cancerous, but it can lead to uterine cancer, can lead to cervical cancer, right? So it depends on the severity. Fibroids are benign, but they are a warning shot that the body is tumorous, right? So fibroids can grow from anywhere from the size of a pea to the size of a melon, right? You can have from 1 to 100 fibroids, where it's like we've lost count. You just got multiple fibroids, right? Endometriosis can cause cysts, where you can have multiple chocolate cysts. So these are conditions where you have growths that can interfere with the function of other tissues, depending on the size that they grow. And depending on where fibroids grow can also be the difference between enjoyable sex and painful sex. can be the difference between being fertile, where if the fibroids or cysts block the fallopian tubes, can be the difference between being fertile or infertile. So infertility is also a result or symptom of either of those diseases. But with endometriosis, one of the major things that are part of the symptom is the pain. Endometriosis causes a lot of pain. So the reason why, and over here in the United States, because again, it's larger and there's more Black women who don't have the ability to get diagnosed, the diagnosis can take up to 11 years, right? Up to 11 years. And the reason why diagnoses take so long is because there are so many similarities with other conditions. So it's almost like gynaes are afraid to make that diagnosis just in case it's incorrect. So
the procedure to diagnose is so invasive.
Is invasive. So the actual procedure to where, all right, we need to go in, right, is invasive, where a lot of women don't want that invasive procedure. So they have endo, but they just haven't had the official word. So a lot of white women, more white women in this country are diagnosed than Black women, but only because Black women are not going for all the follow-up procedures. They don't go through all the, all the appointments, because one, it's not free. Right. The screening and everything is not free. And, healthcare comes into it, where we have that form systemic racism that goes on, right? So
there's a disparity in access to care because of economics that comes into it as well. There's a suspicion of the medical profession and how Black women are treated by OBGYNs. It's, manifold how many issues there are.
It's the same over here, to be fair. Whilst we may not have the necessary implication of cost that you have in the US, nevertheless, we are unheard and misunderstood. And so irrespective.
Plus, they believe that Black women can take the pain. So when Black women complain about, period pains, and it ain't, it's endometriosis, they're told, it's just a period pain. Here, take some Motrin. Here, we'll put you onto this, and it's worsening. So somebody who maybe is stage 1, where it's milder, by the time they get properly diagnosed, it's stage 4. Now it's affecting other, and it's like, right, you need a hysterectomy.
And that's the situation for us in the UK.
That's
the situation for us. I appreciate that we're running, we've actually ran over, but I know, but there are so many people still on the platform. Brother Andrew, can I have your permission? And also for yourself, Coach Chi-Chi and Dr. Amsu, do I have your permission for us to at least extend it for 15 minutes?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, we can go. EastEnders don't start yet over here.
Because this is so key. This is so key, because the thing is that there is an attack. As far as I'm concerned, I'm sure that you will agree, there is an attack on Black lives, and Black lives die in the womb. And the thing is that this is a subject matter that needs to get the right knowledge heard, and that's what you are providing tonight. So I see everyone saying yes, that they want to stay. So Brother Andrew, do we have your permission, sir? I'm gonna take that as a yes.
100%.
I heard silence. I was taking it as a yes.
Yes, I mean 100%. Can I just say, I'm sitting there absolutely dumbfounded. I'm in love with the interaction between our sister and brother. I mean, it's so good that they're professionals, but the interaction, the humor, the knowledge, the wisdom, and just how they're relating with you, Sister Samira, it's just phenomenal. And I'm just dumbfounded. And I just want to thank our 2 keynote speakers for the sacrifices, because this ain't done overnight. And the love that these 2 have for freedom, justice, and equality, and the health of our people, we can't pay you enough. No money can pay you enough for for what you mean to our community worldwide. Thank you so much. But yes, we could do an extra 10 minutes or so. Let's.
Oh, brother, you can try to get the money up there, though. You know, we ain't gonna stand in the way. We're not gonna stand in the way of you making that money, bro. You know what I'm saying?
This ain't the time. This ain't the time. But no, I echo everything that Brother Andrew has said. I mean, in terms of signs to look out for, there's a lot of obvious signs that women can look out for in terms of the pain, if they can see that their stomach is extended. But what other symptoms, physical and or emotional, would you suggest that women look out for whether it's fibroids and or endometriosis?
So before we go into that,
okay,
let's explain why so many Black women have fibroids.
Okay.
There's a why. Okay. Now,
yeah,
Black people, we have a genetic polymorphism, right? When it's less than 1%, it's called a mutation. But when it's more than 1%, it's known as a polymorphism.
So it's basically a mutation on steroids.
So a polymorphism can either be unnatural or naturally occurring. There's a natural occurrence within Black people, right? Where we exacerbate, we amplify the effects of estrogen, right? So there are two types of estrogen receptors, estrogen receptor alpha and estrogen receptor beta. Estrogen receptor alpha upregulates or amplifies or makes us more sensitive to estrogen. Estrogen receptor beta downregulates or makes us more tolerant of estrogen, right? So Black people, we have a polymorphism where our estrogen receptor alpha is more sensitive and basically amplifies the effects of estrogen more than everybody else. We also have another polymorphism. So on a genetic level, our estrogen receptor alpha is more prominent. We have more estrogen receptor alphas than everybody else, but our estrogen receptor alphas that we do have are more gravelicious, more sensitive, right? So that means, so we can take, for instance, something like soya milk, right? Everybody who wants to get into health gives up cow's milk and they say, right, I'm going soya. Soya milk is high in phytoestrogens. White people are less sensitive because it binds to their estrogen receptor beta, their beta receptors, right? It will bind to our alpha receptors, therefore it exacerbates the effect, right? Now, on a metabolic level, there's what we know as the cytochrome P450s, which are aromatic enzymes, right? Which there is a particular CYP called CYP19A1, which there are there are phases of metabolism. Whenever we ingest, we will go and utilize whatever substance it is, right? In order to pull out nutrients for it to be used within the body. There's a phase called hydroxylation, where a hydroxyl atom or molecule is added to whatever substance to change its action within the body. Hydroxylation amplifies the effects of estrogen. So this CYP19A1 that we have a polymorphism for, it exacerbates or makes us more likely to perform hydroxylation. So this hydroxylation amplifies and makes estrogen volatile within the body. So it becomes even more dangerous, even more volatile, even more toxic within the body, which means whenever there's a toxin in the body, there's a immune response, right? An inflammatory response to that, right? So estrogen in the black body, not only do we have more estrogen receptors, but we're hydroxylating this estrogen, right? Then the same CYP19A1 is also responsible for an enzyme, the production of an enzyme called aromatase. Aromatase is an enzyme that converts androgens such as testosterone and progesterone into estrogens. So let's walk back through it. Not only do we have highly sensitive estrogen receptors, and a lot of them, right? Alphas. We also produce, we have genes that mean that we hydroxylate the estrogens, make them more volatile, and then we're actually producing an enzyme that converts androgens into estrogens, which then the estrogen receptors then upregulate it, which is this cycle.
So our bodies
this
are
so feedback. You see feedback?
Positive feedback. Mm-hmm.
This positive feedback. So this now makes Black women 9.7 times more, right? 9.7 times more. This is 970% more likely.
I don't know math. Sorry.
To have fibroids or reproductive issue than white women, right? This means that Black men are 4 times more likely to have prostate issues, cancer, and whatever, right? Prostate cancer is 4 times, but prostate issues such as prostatitis or enlarged prostate, the numbers go up. So an estrogen is at the root of prostate issues, right? So this is why we cannot, when I said earlier, we're different, we metabolize differently to white people. This is the effects. So when we see them do something, it don't mean so we can do the same thing, right? We cannot eat what they eat. We require top nutrients, top nutrition. We can't go for synthesized. And we're living in an age where pop it in the microwave, stick it in the oven, buy it frozen, processed food, denatured foods that are in the fridge, right? And a lot of these foods are estrogenic. So things like garlic that you hear, if you've got a cold, have some garlic to help get rid of it. Garlic has medicinal properties, but it's also highly estrogenic. So when we have colds, if we have garlic at that point, cool, because it's going to help to deal with a cold. But when we start seasoning our food all the time with garlic, now we become more susceptible. So there are a lot of foods that are highly estrogenic, even plant-based foods.
Yeah, phytoestrogens.
Phytoestrogens. So phytoestrogens, when white people eat certain phytoestrogens, they attach to that beta receptor. But when we eat the same thing, it attaches to the alpha receptor.
Can you give an example?
An example, flax seeds.
Okay.
Flax seeds, soy, any soy product, right? Eggs, right? I've got a whole list. You know, I'm going to read the list, right? Because people always say, what are these things? So I'm going to read off a list that I prepared earlier.
Thank you.
And then as he's reading the list, just think about what he said about garlic. So it's not like you can't ever have garlic. If you're sick and you need it and it's known to kill bacteria and viruses, then use it at that time. But to use it in excess, you know, the saying goes, everything in excess is not good for you, right? So consider that, right?
So here we go. Alfalfa. Now, alfalfa is used in a lot of chlorophylls, right? When you go and buy chlorophyll, you have to check to see, all right, what's the source of the chlorophyll? If it's alfalfa, it may have that estrogenic effect on the body. So I advise with caution, right? Eggs, pomegranate, aniseed, right? Aniseed, right? Licorice, right? Eggplant, potatoes, white potatoes, antacids, so stuff that you get for acid reflux and stuff like that. These are fennel, pumpkin. Now, there's a difference between pumpkin pulp and pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin seeds, we know for sure that it binds to the beta receptors. So it's actually an anti estrogenic, right? Baker's yeast, right? Antidepressants, fermented foods like pickles, right? Red beans, flax seeds, red clover. Now, in a lot of, studying herbs, a lot of naturopaths and herbalists will say to a woman who's suffering with dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea or cramping or whatever, have red clover, but this actually makes situations worse, right? So just that with the red clover. Barley, garlic, so barley, right? Garlic, rhubarb. Now, rhubarb is one of those substances that is great for cancer. Rhubarb has anti-cancerous properties, but if you don't have cancer and you're just having rhubarb and custard, on the willy-nilly, you got to think about that, right? Caffeine. So coffee, right? Those of you go Starbucks and you're following white people doing the Starbucks in the morning, getting your espresso and your lattes and whatnot. No, all right? Hops, that's beers, right? Yeah. So hops is great for the digestive system, but there's a particular chemical called xanthocumol, which is great for the digestive system, which is part of hops, but hops is highly estrogenic. So that's why people who drink beer and whatnot, they get the beer belly and they start to gain weight, is because of estrogen in there. Rice, brown rice or white rice, right?
Yeah. It's a staple of African and
Caribbean. Sage.
Oh dear. Okay.
Olives or any soybean.
Oh, wow.
Olives, right? Olives.
Okay.
So particular, again, olives also have a, if your body's functioning right, you will, whatever estrogens are in there, your body will, one of your liver's functions is to get rid of excess estrogen. That's only when you're overwhelmed, when the liver's like, have it, with the estrogen, right? But so olives are good. Black olives actually have good medicinal properties. The green olives are, more estrogenic than the black ones, right? All soy, clover, most condiments, that's your ketchup, because of the modified corn starches and the corn syrups and all the additives and preservatives that they have in there, MSG. Parsley, right? Cowpeas, black-eyed peas. All right, now a lot of these have medicinal properties for other ailments, but if you are suffering, and the reason why I have it on a list is if you are suffering with estrogen dominance related disease, which they call it hormonal imbalance. So whenever you hear hormonal imbalance, it's usually, 99% of the time it's estrogen dominance, right? Yeah. Sunflower seeds, right? And here's the thing, a lot of black guys over here, especially, you go to a petrol station, whatever, you see sunflower seeds, and it's taught out here a lot that sunflower seeds help with such and such, and it's really good, but they have lignans, which are phytoestrogens, right? Lignans, right? They're polyphenols, but they are phytoestrogenic, right? Bell peppers.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And I like doing this.
Lord.
Oh, man, what am I going to eat?
So far, we can have water, everyone. So far. I haven't even asked you about water yet.
Wheat.
Water's a whole nother story.
So wheat, which you have in your bread, in your donuts, right? In a lot of stuff, right? Wheat is also has gluten, which can present another problem, right? All animal meats, that includes fish, because there was an ITAL or somebody, what about fish? Jesus eat fish. So pescatarians, if you suffer with
I tell shrimp, yeah, and fish, but yes. So okay.
If you suffer with estrogen dominance, cut fish out, right? Yam, and when we talk about yam, we're talking about the common yam. There are wild yams which are actually good. Wild yam is great, right? Which is the original yam.
Yeah.
But yam that grow big, sir, and
Yeah.
big, sir, usually, you know, they're like yellow yam is not good. It's very, very a lot of carbs, a lot of starch in that, which isn't good. And neglected water. What do we mean by neglected water? So you buy your bottle of water, your Evian, and it started out at its source, it was good for you, but in the plastic seeps, the BPAs, bisphenol A's, which have an estrogenic effect on the body, right? So I do have a list of foods that are actually good that you can have.
Everyone's not depressed right now. Depressed the whole thing. You depressed everybody.
All right, so
get your list out. Get your pen and paper.
Acorn squash.
Say that again, please.
Acorn squash. Acorn squash. Some people might not have heard of, right? Almonds are good, right? Artichoke.
Oh, okay.
Basil or basil, depending on where. Blackberries, black kale or dinosaur kale. Dates, right? Dates have phytoestrogen, so it depends on your epigenetics, which we can describe epigenetics, what that is, right? Fenugreek, figs, ginger. Ginger's a superfood, everybody. Ginger's your best friend.
Oh, right. Oh, good.
Goji berries, grape, tomatoes, grapefruit, green cabbage or purple cabbage, right? And red cabbage, right? Green or purple pears, hemp seeds, lemons and limes, key limes in particular, because key limes are the seeded limes. If you buy lime and it don't have seeds in it, don't do it, because it has manganese inhibitors in foods that don't have seeds, right? Any fruit that don't have seeds means that it's got manganese inhibitors, which affect fertility, right? Affect sperm count in men. Seedless fruit.
Seedless fruit, seedless person.
Right, there you go. There you go. That's why Genesis spoke about eating, always eat fruits that have seeds, that produce seeds from themselves, right? And this is what's dread about Genesis, that I think it was 1 verse 29.
Oh, Genesis. Okay.
Genesis 1 verse 29. Now,
yeah, the
first seedless fruits weren't until the 1950s. So figure that out. Somebody knew that there was going to be seedless fruit
in the future.
So black lentils, black mulberries, black rice, black wild rice.
Wild rice, okay.
Blueberries, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, burdock, mangoes, millet, mustard greens, pineapples, purple seeded grapes, purple cabbage, quinoa, raw pumpkin seeds, red Musa bananas, plantain as well.
It's a long list.
Red onions,
this is
Roma
good.
tomatoes.
Yeah, it's good. It's a long
so
list.
I'm giving, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When people say,
I was concerned. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie.
Romaine lettuce.
For you. Oh, there's more. Okay.
Yeah, romaine lettuce, butternut squash, chard, chives, right? Chlorophyll is great for you, but make sure you know the source of that chlorophyll, right? Coconuts. Coconut is a super food, absolutely super. Coconut has so many medicinal properties. If you haven't seen the Coconut Revolution, it's on YouTube. I suggest go watch Coconut Revolution, right? See how great coconuts are. Collard greens, dandelion, seaweed, nori, wakame, arami. These are your seaweeds. Sea moss, right? Chondrus crispus, which is what you get, you know, Irish moss, right?
Okay, good.
Spelt, even though spelt has gluten, has gluten in it, but it's a estrogen inhibitor, right? Tuna plant, not tuna fish, tuna plant, right? Distilled water, spring water, structured water, watermelons. one of the best things on the planet is seeded, black seed watermelon. Don't get the seedless watermelons. Wild rice, wild raspberries, wild strawberries, right? So when you buy strawberries and they're big like your fist, don't deal with them thing there. Make sure they're small.
Back away from the big strawberry.
Wild yam, yellow squash, zucchini squash. So this is not the exhaustive list, but I've just given where there's a variety of foods that you can eat.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Almonds, can we have pre-soaked almonds?
Yeah. Yeah.
Still
Pre-soaked. So it's still almonds, as long as they're not roasted, like roasted almonds or salted, because where's the salt coming from? What's the source of the salt?
Yeah. And the roasting of them, you know, and a lot of things that are roasted and baked, you have to remember that these things are being cooked at really high temperatures. And so it's distorting the molecular structure of the foods and making them toxic, creating chemicals within them. So for example, a lot of nuts are rich in oils, right? They're natural oils. When oils are heated to a high temperature, like 400 degrees Fahrenheit or whatever, they become toxic chemicals. And so it's better to have things raw where you can, or, you know, not cooked above 100 degrees.
So I know we have to stop, but Brother Andrew, I have a question. This is important. This isn't, This is just a quick question. I'm going to switch gears very quickly so that we can tie up. But I know this has been amazing information. I'm going to ask everyone to confirm that. Uni steaming or yoni steaming. What are your thoughts, rapid fire, as to how that can help if someone has fibroids or endometriosis?
Okay, so yoni steaming. Okay, so the vagina is at a certain pH. It has to remain acidic in order to help to fight bacteria and yeasts, right? Yoni steaming actually alters the pH balance of the vagina, right? And makes it more alkaline, which will encourage infection. So you have to be careful with when you're dealing with the yoni. All right.
Our solution is the Great Black Detox.
All right. So we have the Great Black Fibroid Detox or the Great Black Endo Detox. You know, Great Black. You know, we have bacterial vaginosis, BVRX for bacterial vaginosis. But yoni, when you place steaming, you raise the pH, and that's not good. You want to keep that pH. You want to keep it in an acidic environment.
Interesting. And then another question, well, that was my question, and I hope that helped. But another question that I've seen in the Q&A box with regards to HRTs, can we presume that being on HRTs are bad?
Absolutely.
Synthetic
hormones. So here's what's dangerous about the whole hysterectomy process. So after hysterectomy, you know, a full hysterectomy, you're getting rid of the ovaries. The ovaries produce those sexual steroidal hormones, right? Which are very important. So estrogen, when it's regulated correctly, is great. It helps with osteogenesis as one of its functions, right? Keeping bones nice and dense, the bone density nice and dense. When you get a hysterectomy, not only are you no longer producing estrogen, you're no longer producing progesterone or testosterone, and you have to rely on your adrenals, where it's only, you know, minimal amount of those sex hormones are being produced. So they come in with this hormone replacement therapy, which is like, all right, where'd you get the estrogen from though? Is it from a monkey? Is it from a cow? Is it from a whale somewhere? You know what I mean? Is it from her next door? You know what I'm saying? Where's it coming from? What's the source? And again, it could be synthesized. The source could be synthesized, which means that it does not have the harmonics, the overtones of nature, where it now becomes a toxin, which is now where women start to get thyroid issues and breast cancer, you know, estrogen receptor positive breast cancer, ovarian cancer, cervical cancer, all because of this hormone replacement therapy. So don't let them give you a hysterectomy. That should be your last resort, where it's life and death, why you get that hysterectomy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to come in on this point here.
I know. I wanted to tie up by asking if they can just share something with us to tie up.
One second.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to, because I'm telling you now, man, I can't believe how many people are still on the platform. It's just everyone's saying part 2, part 3. Andrew, don't stop it. Jarita, you smashed it. Samara, you killed it. I guess I needed. I'm gonna ask the both of you, would you be happy to come back again on the same subject matter? Because next time I'd like to open the door so that people can ask you questions directly as well. Because I know that a lot of people have got a lot of issues on their mind. Would you be happy to come back again and for us to open, like, do a same type of section where Sister Samira's talking to you, but also we'll have extra time to to open the door whereby brothers and sisters can ask you questions direct as well. Will you two be happy to come back again to do this? Because it looks like you're in great demand.
Absolutely.
Be a pleasure.
We love it. We could stay here all night.
It's absolutely brilliant. And we can see by the numbers.
5-hour advantage over you guys.
We can see by the numbers still on the platform, and the numbers that we're looking at is just the computer ones. We've got so many people with the phones and whatever. I'm scared to find out how many people are really logged on today. It's been absolutely amazing. Brother and sister, I've done a little poll earlier. I think you was there, and I was asking about would we or should we do a show on cosmic sexual energy and the benefits and whatever. Would you two be okay on that subject? Would you like to come back and talk about the benefits and the deepness behind our sexual energy too, and what it does for health?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Sure.
All right, because
absolutely, yes.
After tonight, I think that you two are gonna absolutely smash it when we go there. I've got 1 or 2 other guest speakers on that night too, but I think what you two are gonna add to it on that night is just gonna be absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Brothers and sisters,
I don't know what to say. Just very quickly, please afford me that, Brother Andrew, which is just 2 things. So number 1, before we finish up, what would you say for someone right now who's experiencing heavy bleeding? What would you recommend that they do to limit that and lessen the bleeding?
Okay, so again, that's heavy bleeding is due to estrogen dominance, right? Hormonal imbalance. And those foods that I listed to cut out, they need to cut out those foods.
Yeah.
They need to supplement though, with, you know, we have our, behind me on the screen here, we have a Great Black Fibroid Detox. In that Great Black Fibroid Detox, there are different supplements. We have a supplement called Essence, which is helps inhibit estrogen and aromatase, which are responsible for that hormonal imbalance, which is part of that kit. We also have a supplement called Stability, which is a hormone stabilizer as well. It helps to keep the levels of progesterone and testosterone up there to help to regulate estrogen, because your blood cells are basically carriages, and your blood cells have a maximum capacity of what they can carry. So when your blood cells have testosterone and progesterone, there's a limit to how much estrogen can get into each blood cell. But when there's a lack of progesterone or testosterone, it's like estrogen's like, right, we're going bandulu this whole thing. You know, we're going to take over this whole carriage. So uninhibited estrogen wreaks havoc in the body.
Yeah.
What's the second part?
So my questions for you both, just to bring the session to a conclusion, is what would one piece of advice be that you can share to everyone on the platform? And this is going to be separate. So I'll start with Coach Chi.
Okay.
From a female perspective, what would you say to our women? One piece of advice that you would give to our women.
The best piece of advice I would say to women is to detoxify your life. You need to do a detox of your body and a detox of your home, and consider that the chemicals that affect you affect your whole family. We are the gatekeepers to these toxins and poisons and chemicals into our homes. And so we need to control that by making different choices with what we bring into our homes, what we spend our money on, what we put on our skin, what we use to brush our teeth, all of that. So that's what I would advise. Detoxify your life.
Amazing. Thank you. And then to yourself, Dr. Amsu, what would you say to our brothers? What piece of advice would you give to our brothers to support our women that are either going through fibroids or if they're going through endometriosis or both? What piece of advice would you give?
I would say start off with everybody, always read the labels. Mm-hmm. Always read the labels. And not only just read the labels, but understand the labels. So what am I looking at here? This is some 8-syllable word. Find out what that 8-syllable word is, what it does to your body. Be mindful of what you put into your body, right? Men, listen to your women when if they're not in the mood, find out why they're not in the mood. You know, have the conversation, keep communication open. You know, don't bring in the side chick so quickly, you know. Hey, that's a serious thing. That's a serious thing. I ain't playing around.
You know? Real talk. Hashtag Real Talk Tuesday.
See what I'm saying? You know, try to get that understanding and work with your women to make sure that their health is optimal. And I know, you know, women, the reason why so many women suffer is because they're silent. They suffer in silence. You know, so women have to start expressing themselves. We can't read your minds. So it's a two-way street. We don't know what's going on. You need to let us know, but we have to be open to hear what's going on when you do open up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow.
No, thank you ever so much.
Wow.
Brother Andrew, over to you.
Brothers and sisters, Sister Samira, you've pushed tonight's show, beloved. This came from your heart. I think the whole audience can see that you're passionate. This ain't no joke thing for you, sister. We thank you so much, because reading the comments, so many people are being absolutely blessed. Phenomenal. Our coach Chi, Dr. Amsu, please know that the love for you has been absolutely tripled, quadrupled, infinitized, whatever terminology. I hope, brothers and sisters, please don't make me out to be a liar. Show the love on the platform. You know, if you know you've been touched tonight, let the doctor, let the coach know what they've done for you tonight, because I would never allow the show to go on this long. But I could not bring myself with the amount of knowledge, the wisdom and the love that was shown on this platform. Don't tell me. I know it was great. Tell them. Tell Samira as well, because she pushed this show through tonight personally. Okay? Let them know that this was absolutely amazing.
We're just so grateful. We thank you for allowing us the time and the space and the opportunity to share what we know, and we want to help as many people as we can.
We're gonna do this, man.
Yeah.
And we would love. I mean, if and when we come to the UK, we got a link with you guys, and
absolutely.
You know,
no, that's done.
Do as much as we can.
We're gonna organize your tour when you come to the UK. Don't worry about that, beloved.
But we would also love for you guys to come over here, because you know, you guys' presentation is fantastic. We love it. We love you guys as presenters, and you know, you guys have vested interests. You have personal stories and that, which makes this even more real. You know, you're not just talking, it's like you feel it.
Yeah.
We feel you. We feel the both of you, and we feel your partner Brother Michael too, King. That's why, you know, that's why you are always the brother's there.
I thought I just waved my hand in. Do you know what I mean? I'm just moral support today. You know what I mean?
I didn't know you was there, man. But we love you, King. I want you to know that, man.
Appreciate you guys, man. Definitely.
You lot are in such high demand and love. I mean, we get our biggest turnouts when yourselves are on the platform with us, man. It's not just
Mikey was here to make sure that the distance between me and Chi remained at an 8-inch gap.
Really? And what is so beautiful, brothers and sisters, with yourselves, what is so beautiful is that you have time to have humor, and that humor, I can see, it's not no silly humor. That humor is a very important spiritual ingredient in our lives, and people don't appreciate the importance of humor to spirituality. Some of the most spiritual people on planet Earth were absolutely fun in the backside, and what's been so beautiful that you've combined your professionalism, your militancy, and your studies with time to have humor too. So we bow to you, we thank you, we honor you, man, and we just can't wait for yourselves to be back again. Brothers and sisters, this is Andrew Mohammed, the Hidden Truth Specialist. You've just heard from the King and the Queen, Coach Chi, Dr. Amsu, and our brother Michael in the background. It has been pure love. Wow, what a night. And don't forget, we still got Sister Samira to come back for her after party. You cannot miss that. We know it's late, but it's got to be done. This was a part of our Goddess Month selection under Hidden Truth. We've had world authority nutritionists, world authority in fibroids and endometriosis, absolutely claiming our reproductive power. Sister Samira, I think we definitely need to give every brother that's turned up tonight. Sisters, this was focused on the female, but come on, man, let's make some noise for every brother that turned up tonight. Brothers, I've seen you on the platform, Brother Damien, Kevin, and so many brothers out. Sisters, can you do me a favor? Show some love to every black man that came out tonight. Because they're showing you, man, that we care.
Was in the house. Earl was in the house. Oh, I'm so proud.
Brothers, you turned up in your numbers tonight to show that we are now unified, not male against female, male and female, female and male. We stand now united on our issues. So every brother that turned out tonight, you are a true man. You are a true man, beloved. And Sister Samira done that call out, and you answered that call. You answered that call. Absolutely fantastic. Sisters, keep showing your love to every brother on the platform tonight.
I'm so proud of our men. You didn't disappoint. I knew you wouldn't. It's such an honor to always be a part of this family. Thank you so much for embracing a subject matter that can be uncomfortable, but it had to be discussed. And we know that part 2 and 3 will follow. So cannot